Hey, welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. I'm the Fat Guy. Most people just call me Brett. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast, whether this is your first time or whether you're somebody that comes here regularly. I really appreciate you listening, and I more importantly appreciate you sharing because if I help you, that's great. If you share it and this podcast helps 20 more people, that's amazing. So we're going to be talking, the next few podcasts will be a series on Keto 101. So if you want to start keto and you want to understand it and you want it to not be complicated, you're tired of going from site to site trying to figure out what it is, over the course of the next 3 or 4 podcasts, I'm going to lay it out step by step. You will be a ketogenic master, guaranteed. So it's very important that you help me get the word out. Spread this, share this, okay? About me, if you're not familiar with me, I'm a guy who's been fat my whole life, lost 125 pounds with keto, and that's after trying every diet conceivable. A ketogenic diet is absolutely the best way to lose weight. It's the best way to reverse type 2 diabetes. It's the best way to prevent heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, all that stuff. A quick disclaimer that anything I say in this podcast is not intended to be taken as specific medical advice or dietary advice for you. This is simply me sharing my personal results, my personal journey, and things that I've learned along the way. Before you begin any kind of a diet or health or weight loss or any kind of program, you should consult with your doctor, and I insist on that. Make sure you follow us on social media. You can find us using the username Fat Guy Podcast. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. And of course, you can subscribe to the podcast. Now, the easiest way to do that for newbies or now if you're an experienced podcast consumer, you can, wherever you get your podcast now, just search for Fat Guy Podcast and you'll find us. If you're a newbie, an easy way to do it is go download the free Spreaker app, Spreaker, Spreaker, Spreaker. Download it for free. Once you download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast, hit that heart button, subscribe to the podcast, like it, and all that good stuff, and you'll get notified about new episodes. You can also scroll back and see all previous episodes, and as a bonus, that company not only hosts my podcast, but they host thousands of other podcasts. Who knows what kind of podcast you'll find on there that you enjoy. I love listening to podcasts. I have about 10 to 15 that I subscribe to, and I listen to them every week. So I think that probably gets the worst of it out of the way. I have started allowing, so many people have asked how they could help. I can't say so many. Several people have asked how they could help. And so I finally decided to set up a Patreon account. So Patreon is where you just, you appreciate what somebody's doing and you just want to show thanks. And I set a Patreon up. I set up a default support level of $5 because I'm not looking to get rich from this. But podcast hosting is kind of expensive. The equipment involved is kind of expensive. And I'd like to improve and do even better and better podcasts, including interviews, moving into videos and stuff. But of course, all that requires the financing. Most importantly, it's a intake on my time as well. But look, I've said I'll never charge for these podcasts, and I don't. This is a volunteer thing. If you'd like to help out, be a Patreon supporter, there's a few perks in for it. One, if you're a Patreon supporter, you become a supporter. We'll give you a shout out on every podcast. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you will also have access to the Patreon only content, which you'll get access to as a supporter. So I'll do some podcast over there that only you'll be able to hear. This will be probably related to questions that you ask. So it'll allow you to be very personal with me in that way. And a couple other perks as well. It's $5. If easy way to get there is just go to ketoanimal.com. Ketoanimal.com. That's all one word. Ketoanimal.com will forward you right to the Patreon. If you want to type it in manually, it's patreon.com/fatguypodcast. Patreon.com/fatguypodcast. The easy way is just hit up ketoanimal.com though. Keto 101 today. Meat. Keto 101 meat. We're going to talk about meat. Meat will be the bulk of your diet on a ketogenic diet. There's a few things about protein that the research has really confirmed, especially over the past few years. when you hit the level of protein that you need for the day, you will not be hungry anymore. They've shown this. I was just looking at a research study a couple of days ago that showed this. It's probably the third one I've seen. So while fat is very important about satiating you in the short term, if you eat a high-fat meal, you're going to feel full and not be hungry after the meal. Protein is a much longer range thing. In other words, at the end of the day kind of thing. It's like, oh, we've hit our protein, and it'll just take the hunger away. So protein is very important. The type of protein that you eat, the type of meat that you eat is also very important because that's where you'll be getting the bulk of your nutrition from. And there's good meats and there's bad meats. Now, I want to be clear. If you're on the standard American diet and you're eating at McDonald's and Wendy's and Taco Bell and you're eating all stuff from boxes and bags and crap from the center store aisles and you're way overweight, you can change to keto and you can do the laziest, most unhealthiest form of keto possible and you'll probably still lose weight from it. So I'd rather you do that than do nothing because you're confused by the meats. But what I would ultimately rather you do is do it right, because getting healthy is the number one way to lose weight. Now, getting the macros right, getting your insulin level down, blood sugars down is going to open up that floodgate of fat burning. But if you're healthy overall and your body is operating at optimum efficiency, you're going to lose weight even better. It's going to be more sustained. And more importantly, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to just feel great. That's the most important thing. So let's talk about meat. We're going to talk about the kinds of meat you should eat and in what quantities, okay? You should eat meat with every meal. One of these episodes will be talking about the intermittent fasting aspect of being healthy and tying that in with keto. So we'll be talking about meals per day. So we'll get to that in another podcast. For right now, we're going to assume that you're probably eating 3 meals a day, and that's fine when you start keto. Eat 3 meals a day, that's fine. You need meat with every meal. Meat should be the centric, most calorie-dense portion, along with the fat that comes with the meat and what little fat you use on your vegetables. Beef is number one by far. Beef is the most nutrient-dense, high-fat, total package combination of meat you can eat. So really, most every day for every meal should be beef. Okay? You should have beef for lunch. You should have beef for dinner. That can be hamburger meat. It can be steaks, obviously. You can do, beef roasts and things like that, other forms of beef. But beef is number one. The fattier cuts of beef are better, but those are also going to be the more expensive. The less fatty cuts of beef are going to be the cheaper ones. Look, not everybody can afford to eat ribeyes every day for dinner. So eat ribeyes one day a week or 2 days a week or something. You can do a flank steak or a flat iron steak or something other days, or whatever. Or you can do ground beef. Look, I never get tired of eating ground beef. But you need to figure out a way to make beef what you eat most meals. The exception to that, what I would say, would be the next meat, which is bacon. I tell everybody that starts a ketogenic diet, eat bacon for breakfast every day, and it will make your ketogenic journey so much easier the first 4 to 6 weeks while you're trying to figure everything out. If you know every day that you're going to be eating bacon and eggs with butter for breakfast every day, you don't have to think about the first meal. You don't have to plan for it. You don't have to wonder if the macros are going to be right. You don't have to freak out about it. It's going to be solid, spot on every day. And it's going to set you up to not be hungry until lunch. It's going to set you up to be satiated and satisfied. And you're going to nail your macros. And you're not going to use hardly any of your allotted carbs for the day. Hardly any. So I highly recommend that as a breakfast every day, especially for the first 4 weeks, especially maybe even 6, while you're settling in and learning your new diet, because it just takes one piece of worry out of the way. You don't ever have to worry about your first meal. All right, so that's bacon, and bacon is fine. Don't worry about them freaking out about bacon. Bacon is perfectly fine for you. People try to scare you to death with bacon. So I would say 90% of my diet is beef and bacon as far as meat goes. So what kind of meat do I eat other than that? Well, fish You need to try to get fish in once or twice a week, and it needs to be good, healthy fish. Wild caught salmon is probably the best. You could work tuna in, though. I've tried to move, because tuna is so inexpensive, right? And there's worries with high mercury levels that you'll hear them freak you out about. If you're eating a can or two of it a week, you ain't got to worry about mercury levels. And it has a lot of the healthy stuff that you need from fish, primarily omega-3s. You need omega-3s. Beef is not high in omega-3s. Bacon is not high in omega-3s. You've got to get your omega-3s from fish. So fish should be two to three meals a week should be fish. But it should be good fish. So you can get you some wild-caught salmon. You can get you some, like I said, some tuna. My thing with tuna is I just like to take a can of tuna. I actually like to get the vacuum sealed bags because they last forever and they don't have nearly as much juice in them. It's mostly just tuna. I like to get those vacuum sealed bags, dump it out in a bowl, put a tablespoon of mayonnaise in there, mix it up real good, and eat it just like that. Of course, you could add a little dill relish. You could add some chopped up onions in there. But I just like plain mayonnaise and just tuna. And I'll just eat that right out of a bowl. Just eat that for a meal. Nevertheless, fish is where you get your omega-3s. So you need to make that a meal a week. Now, obviously, most people aren't lazy slobs like me, so you'll probably want to cook a nice meal so your family will enjoy it. So, get you a nice piece of salmon. Get you a nice piece of really healthy, good fish. And you don't drop it in vegetable oil and fry it. You're going to need to bake it or pan sear it or something like that. And if you're going to pan sear it in a healthy oil. It needs to be olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, lard, tallow, something like that. We're not using peanut oil or canola oil. And I'm going to have a whole podcast on oil, so don't freak out about that. That's a coming up episode. But just letting you know right now, you can pan sear it or bake it. Okay, don't drop it in a boiling pot of peanut oil and fry it. It's just wreak havoc in your body and it's defeating the purpose. You may have noticed I hadn't got to chicken yet because chicken is the very bottom of the list. Okay, look, chicken is delicious. We all love chicken, but what's the problems with chicken? First of all, chicken doesn't have any fat. Especially the piece of chicken most people like, which is the breast. There's no fat in chicken breast. If you leave the skin on, which you should, no matter how you eat, what piece of chicken you eat, you need to leave the skin on. If you leave the skin on the breast, it has a slight amount of fat. If you're going to eat chicken, you need to avoid the chicken breast. You need to eat chicken thighs, primarily. Chicken legs are okay, but chicken thighs. And leave the skin on. That's where you're going to get your fat from. The problem with chicken is the most pumped up, infiltrated, garbage-filled meat you can buy. It's pumped up with hormones. It's pumped up with antibiotics. It's been genetically modified. I mean, these chickens, they're growing these chickens in what is it, like 4 to 6 weeks or something? You have a chicken that has this humongous chicken breast. These chickens get so big so fast that if you go into these chicken houses, and I've done it. My best friend used to run a chicken house, and I went into the chicken house with him many times. These chickens get so big so fast that their legs will not support their weight, and their legs break, and they literally just lay there on the ground, unable to walk. Chickens are unhealthy. They live in those chicken houses where the ammonia is so thick. If you've never walked in a chicken house before, thank your lucky stars you haven't. I don't know how my friend did that for a living. I would go in there with him, and I could only survive in there a minute or two maybe. And my lungs would get so painful and inflamed from breathing in that ammonia that I'd have to get out. Those chickens live in that for however many weeks it is, 4 or 6 weeks. They live in that, breathing that ammonia every day. Chicken meat is just unhealthy. It's just not healthy. Is it delicious? Oh, God, it's so delicious. So I'm not going to tell you to never have chicken. I'm going to tell you to make chicken a treat rather than a staple. Beef needs to be your staple. Bacon, your secondary staple. Chicken is a treat. It's not a staple. Okay? So you want to have chicken one day a week or something, you want to have your Friday night chicken, your Wednesday night chicken or whatever, that's fine. Make sure it's dark meat. Make sure you leave the skin on. And try to get the healthiest chicken you can. Get organic if you can. And if you can find pasture raised, or I'm not sure what it's called. Is it called yard raised or whatever? You're just not going to find good chicken. They just don't raise it like that. Maybe if you know somebody locally that raises chicken in their backyard. All right. Last on the list is organ meat. So this is going to be things that are probably not appealing to you. You may have never eaten them, or you may rarely eat them. But this is tongue, beef, heart, beef liver. I think chicken liver falls in the category as well. Organ meat is slam packed with nutrients. It has so much that you won't find a plant. They talk about how healthy and nutrient dense plants are. You will not find a plant on the planet that has more nutrients than organ meat. The one that I consume is liver. I ain't eat no beef tongue, and I ain't eat no beef heart. I'm not saying I never will. The thing about beef liver and chicken liver is you don't have to eat it every day or even every week. I'd say once or twice a month, figure out a way to work some liver in. Now, the only way I can eat chicken liver is eat it fried. It has a little batter on it that causes it to be carb heavy. So what I'll do is have a semi-cheat day, and I'll have fried chicken livers and eat a bunch of them once a month. Then, another day out of the week, I try to have some liver. I don't cook it or prepare it, so I either try to find a place that serves it, find a friend that will cook it or serve it, or find some other way of eating it. The other thing that I've done is there is a couple of companies online that will sell you hamburger patties that are like 80-20, 80% beef, 20% beef liver. So you get your liver in, and you can hardly taste it, and the burgers are still good. If you're interested in that, you can do a quick Google search, and if you can't find it, hit me up, and I'll be happy to share it with you. Organ meats. Once every 2 weeks, get you some organ meat, okay? Primarily liver, I think, would work for most people. Beef liver, if you like it and enjoy it and know how to cook it, beef liver would be best. I'd avoid the chicken liver. If you're opposed to beef liver, or you don't know how to cook it, or you're in a position like I am, chicken liver is fine. My problem with chicken liver is I only like it fried. I've tried eating it other ways, and it's nasty. So I have to pretty much devote a cheat day to it, which is okay since it's just one day a month, because it's always battered, and it's so it has a bit of carbs with it. But and I think it's important to keep those nutrients up. So the last thing we'll talk about on our Keto 101 meat podcast today is processed meats. I'm talking about hot dogs, your sandwich meats, lunch meats, deli meats, those type of things, your jerkies, your pepperonis, that type of thing. Let's start with hot dogs. Hot dogs typically have a lot of carbs, and they have a lot of crap in them. I just recommend you stay away from hot dogs altogether, or you do what I do and treat them as a treat. See, you can treat anything as a treat. One day a month you want to have a hot dog day, that's fine. Obviously, you're not going to have a bun with it. So that turns most people off immediately. They're like, the heck with it. If I can't have a bun, I don't even want the hot dog. I love hot dogs without the bun. I like to mix up a mayo and mustard mixture and mix it together and just dip the hot dog in it and eat it just like that. It's so good to me. Or make some chili that doesn't have beans in it, and that you do the chili sauce yourself so it doesn't have a lot of carbs in it. And you can find low-carb chili recipes online if that's something that interests you. And put those hot dogs in there and eat them right up. I mean, I just love hot dogs. Now, there's some brands you can buy that are healthier than others. The absolute healthiest that I've found are Applegate, and I've only seen them at Publix. They have no nitrates, no nitrites. They're uncured, and they have 0 carbs per link, which you won't find in any other hot dog. So look at the carb count. It should not have, you want them that don't have more than like 1 carb per link, okay? You can see them out there have a lot more. And this is going to, especially when you get into the kielbasas and you get into the Polish sausages, if you wager out into that, again, you can have those as treats. Treat yourself by all means. One day a month you want to treat yourself to a kielbasa grilling or whatever. That it's fine. You still live life, but it's a treat. It's a one day a month thing or something. But check the labels and find the ones that has like 1 carb per link. 2 carbs maximum, okay? You just got to be on top of that. Lunch meats. All right. I find that most people will stop eating lunch meats because you're really no longer eating sandwiches. So just have a bunch of thinly shredded meat on a plate for most people is not appealing. I still will occasionally eat them. I actually posted a photo on, I believe it was on my Instagram, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I was making cheese sandwiches. So I actually used some Colby Jack cheese, which is 0 carb, 2 slices of it. I used that as the bread, and I piled up a bunch of ham, sliced deli ham meat in the middle, with a little dollop of mayo on there, and tore into it. That was my sandwich, and I enjoyed it. It's really good. Of course, you could roll them up in cheese or something like that. So you may still want to eat lunch meats. The thing is, when you look at those lunch meats labels, you're going to see they got a lot of carbs in them. They are highly processed with sugar. That's the way they cure them. And then they flavor them. Not only they cure them with sugar, then they add some more sugar in there for flavoring. So lunch meats are really hard to eat. Again, that's a treat type thing. You're not going to eat lunch meats for lunch every day. You're not going to be satisfied. They don't have enough fat in them. They don't have nearly enough fat in them. And they have a lot of sugar in them. Jerky would be next on the list. Now, I love jerky as a snack. The problem with jerky is to find jerky that doesn't have carbs in it, you have to pay a lot of money for it. Out of all the jerkies I've seen, there is a brand at Walmart, and it sticks. It's turkey sticks. They're not flat, flat, wide pieces of jerky like you normally see. It's the round sticks. And I can't remember the name brand right now, but you'll know them when you see them at Publix. But they're turkey sticks, and they have 1 carb per stick. But the stick is not very big. It's not even as tall as my iPhone, and it's not even as big around as my pinky. And it's got 1 carb, so you just can't eat a lot of it. Now, there's some jerky that I buy online that's excellent, but it's super, super expensive. Super expensive. Since I enjoy turkey and I do a lot of traveling and I'm at places where I need snacks to help keep me in line, like for instance when I'm at a casino or playing poker, having some jerky at the table helps me from, giving in and buying the fried chicken. So to me, jerky is a tool and it's worth the investment for me. It may not be worth the investment for you. I find for most people it isn't. It's just very hard to find jerky that doesn't have 2 grams of carbs for a little tiny stick. So you just got to be aware. Last on the list is pepperoni, which is basically a free-for-all. Pepperoni is a great snack. Great snack. I'm about to tell you my 2 favorite snacks that I eat. There's 3. I've already told you one. I've told you about my jerky. Pepperoni is one of my favorite snacks because it's basically 0 carb. It's basically high in fat, and it's delicious. And, you can eat 10, 15 pieces of pepperoni, and it's good. Now, all pepperoni is not created equal. Check the label. I find that the Hormel is just fine. There's some other brands that I've seen at Walmart that actually have a fair amount of carbs in them, so just check the label. Pepperoni is a great snack, though. I'll just eat it right out of the bag, or also eat it with a piece of 0 carb cheese, like a nice Colby Jack or some Gouda or cheddar or whatever, real cheese. It's a good snack. So you got your pepperoni and you got your high quality jerky. The other thing, meat, quote unquote meat that I eat for a snack, and I do this again because I travel a lot, is I will buy that, and it's expensive, but I'll buy that bacon that's pre-cooked and doesn't have to be stored in a fridge. You've seen it. It's usually on the end cap in your grocery stores. So it's in a box. It's pre-cooked bacon. You don't have to refrigerate it. It can just sit out in a counter in a cupboard or something. Or in my case, in my RV, I just leave it in the cupboard in the RV. And anytime I'm ready to just, I'm like, oh boy, I need a snack real quick or something. I'll just grab that, open it up, and I'll just chow on that bacon cold. You don't have to cook it. It don't have to be fried or microwaved. You can, and heat it up, and it's delicious. But you can just eat it right out of there cold, and it's such a great keto snack. Meat is the majority of what you're going to be eating, okay? When you look at your plate should be like half meat or whatever, and half or less vegetables. You want about a cup to a cup and a half of vegetables with lunch, and a cup or a cup and a half of vegetables with dinner. You don't really even need vegetables with breakfast, although you could if you were doing scrambled eggs. Throw you some spinach in there or something, that'd be okay. I don't want to get in vegetables in this podcast. I just want you to understand that meat, the primary source of your calories and your nutrition will all come from meat. So it's important as to what meat you eat. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you appreciate what we do here and you want to help me continue doing it and helping others, please consider being a supporter at Patreon. Go to ketoanimal.com. $5 is all I'm asking. You're going to be buying me a pack of pepperoni a month. I do love pepperoni. I appreciate so much you listening. The most important thing you can do above all is share this. Share. You never know whose life you will change by sharing this podcast. That's how I found keto and how I lost 125 pounds, is because somebody shared something on their timeline about keto, and I saw it and I started studying it, and it changed my life. You can help me change lives. Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Fat Guy Podcast. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you consume podcasts, Fat Guy Podcast, and download that Spreaker app. Spreaker, search for Fat Guy Podcast. Appreciate you so much. Thanks a lot. Keto 101 Veggies is what's coming up next in our next episode. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it.